Gotta click this button.
It just
There we
freaking here we go. Joe Tolle, welcome to the morning show. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's sunny, warm, nice in Southern California. What's the weather like going back there in frigid Ohio?
It's gonna be above freezing today. I don't know how far above freezing. We got above freezing yesterday a little bit. Um, the sun came out. That was nice.
Oh man, that's too funny. We had some conversations about your last video. Oh, let me do my housekeeping. Sorry about that, everybody. We need to thank Elka Suspension for always supporting ATV Talk and building the best shocks in the ATV, UTV, and truck industry. So if you're looking for a great ride, hook up with your Elka dealer, go to Elka Direct. Whatever you do, get connected with Elka. They'll take great care of you, and they make some amazing shocks at the same time. Antelope Slot Canyon Tours. When you're on vacation in Arizona, you need to catch a tour. Go to Antelope Slot Canyon Tours. They will take you and mesmerize you and turn you from an amateur photographer into a professional one because the canyons are beautiful. So get those things checked out. Thank you to the Blunt family and to Craig Christie for always helping us out and being there for us when we need them to be. Okay, we got that out of the way. Um, Thanks to everybody that supports us. Joe, you and I had some conversations about your last video, and I wanted to dive deep into that because I think it's something that the consumers of the industry, the people that are out riding, that are asking for sport quads, and that are, on the internet and also out in the field, we need to clarify a couple things for them. And I wanted to get your perspective on it because when we talk about sport quads, we keep bringing some of these sport 4x4s into our sport two-wheel drive or chain driven machines, and the consumers are getting angry. Well, that's not a sport quad. Well, what do you want us to do? They make two sport quads in this country. They're a YFCR 450R and a Yamaha Raptor 700R. Well, what am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
I mean, that's it. That's all we can do. We saw that video's done good. I mean, we've got to be close to 50,000 views in the first month. I think it'll be a month tomorrow. So we're happy with that. Yeah, it's been a lot of feedback. Everybody's coming out, calling out their favorite bikes, and we're lucky we don't have a lot of idiots. It seems like trolls live on Facebook more than YouTube, is my experience, because our Facebook account's actually waking up because I stopped linking to people's press releases. Um, but anyway, to stay on point, other than people coming in like, yeah, I've got a Renegade, I love it. Yeah, I got a Scrambler, I love it. Like, I love the Raptor. There's a lot of people saying the Raptor is the only real sport quad of the bunch. Um, I agree and I disagree. To me, if you're new or you're stuck, you get kind of stuck in this like one dynamic thinking. And I use the term a lot, traditional sport ATV. What do I think of when I say, well, let me ask you, Lenny, like if I say sport ATV to you, or if I say traditional sport ATV to you, like what do you picture? Like what quantifies to you? You've been here a long time and you've ridden the latest, greatest 4x4 on the market. So what do you think of if it's traditional sport quad? What do you think quantifies that?
So, based on my old way of thinking, um, you're going to go with a chain-driven two-wheel drive machine that's set up that you can race motocross with and cross country and desert and endurance and do all these things that you couldn't do with the what you would call the old school four strokes. I mean, four-wheel drives,
Yeah.
and so that's my view of what a sport quad is supposed to be. To answer your second half of that question, after riding that Outlander, I have a whole new definition for what those four-wheel drive quads are capable of doing and should be categorized. Okay, granted, that was the utility version sport Outlander.
It's a
Okay.
sport utility.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So if it's a sport utility, what's the Renegade?
It's a sport 4x4. I mean, it has no hitch.
Right.
It has no racks. I mean, there is a rack on the back that's big enough to bring your like 1980s little igloo cooler, with, half dozen bottles of water in it or something like that. Um, but really it's not a utility machine. You might be able to fashion a plow onto it if you want it, but yeah, it doesn't really come out equipped for utility work. So then what is it? If an Outlander is a sport utility, if a Grizzly is a sport utility, well then when you take all the racks and the hitch off, what do you got left?
Just because it's shaft drive doesn't make it not sport quad.
And it's like I just had a guy this morning on my YouTube channel, if I didn't get to respond to yet, and it was on the shootout. And he said, "Oh, I had an Outlander XXC," and he said, "I first big bump I hit, I came off the thing and rolled 5 times. Sport quads, traditional sport quads. I don't remember the term he used, but he was referring to what you're talking about. Go faster and can jump farther and blah 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 blah." Agreed. And he's like, "I raced GNCC for 5 years." And I'm sitting here thinking, like, well, then if you raced GNCC for 5 years, and I believe you did, you should realize that they have different classes for these things. You know,
So,
that's
so
that's
wait a
the
minute. Let me interrupt you for a second. So if his skill set is so poor that he can't hit a bump on an ATV, four-wheel drive or not, and gets thrown off, maybe he should stay in the truck. I'm just saying.
well, it to me, and okay, I'm not trying to beat this guy up. Nice guy. He might be a really nice guy. We'd probably have a great conversation if he was on here. So I'm not going to assume. I'm not trying to downgrade him in any way. Um, because I don't think he was trying to be rude. I think he was just trying to make a point. But, you go out and somebody who's fast at something isn't necessarily going to be fast at something else. I mean, lots of people jumped on three-wheelers back in the day and went, "Oh, look, it just sits there. It doesn't tip over like a dirt bike. I can get on that thing and haul ass." Until you realize that that thing's way harder to ride than a dirt bike. Like it's way different and it's harder. It's because the physics are totally different depending upon whether you're on the gas or you're on the brakes. So, you had a lot of people get on those things and get hurt. I could see the same thing happening. You're used to riding your insert brand 450 that's all set up, that's a 400-pound ATV, and then you jump on an 800-pound ATV, 700, 800, 900-pound ATV that has maybe a little less travel than what you're used to. The physics are different. It's way heavier. Your body position doesn't have the impact. The suspension doesn't work as good. You can get it good, but you're not going to get it as good if with the same amount of travel. Um, just the way they're built. And then you go out and you try to ride it out of the gate like you rode your sport quad before you take the time to get acclimated to this is how this thing handles, and now you're on your head. When I hear somebody say, "I went out and hit a bump and I rolled 5 times and blah 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 blah," it's like, okay, this is the mentality that gets companies sued. Like that Outlander didn't do anything bad. You just jumped on it and tried to ride it like you rode your sport quad without taking the time to realize it's a different animal, and you got wadded up. That's not that bike's fault. That's your fault.
Well, the responsibility always falls back on the rider, anyways. So if you're suing the
100%.
manufacturer for something that you did when you threw your leg over, you're already wrong. But I want to read this to you really quick. 867 Diesel in the chat said, when we were asking him about the difference between the 4x4 sport quads, utilities, and everything, he
Yeah.
starts out with 10 seconds, 6 beers, and not Bud
Sure.
Light. And not Bud Light.
That's funny. Hey, I thought the Bud Light were the side by side guys. I don't know. Sorry, side by side guys,
I
but
thought it was the
but
motorcycle crowd.
No, the dirt bike guys. I think they're
Yeah.
probably they're probably the best of all. Maybe not. I don't know. As far as not drinking on the trail, but it's like I don't make up the terminology that I use. And people out here who just have an opinion, they make up. They want to tell you what something is and what it's not. It's like I don't make these categories. They've existed as bikes have come out. If you go back to 1985, I mean, I don't know if these terms are being thrown around as much in the three-wheeler era, although I should know because I've researched them enough. But, when the quad sport and the quad racer came out in 1985, you had a sport quad and you had a high performance quad. Now, you fast forward to today, and I think the things that sort of split those classes out are getting blurred because what was the one was a two-stroke, one was a four-stroke. Today they're all four-stroke, and what were the other differences? Well, the high performance quads had higher end suspension and more travel, and maybe fast forward to the 2000s, the high performance bikes had reservoir shocks. The sport quads maybe didn't have front reservoir shocks. But then you got the Raptor 700, and it's totally blurring the lines. Like, you got reservoir shocks. You got a motor that, although it can lug like a tractor, it revs decent for a 700 single. I think it revs faster than that 700 XX did that Honda made for a couple of years. So it still revs decent. It's the lines get blurred, but sport quad and sport 4x4 are two completely different classes. Just because you say sport, we have sport cars, we have sport trucks. I mean, what's a Ford Raptor? You know, it's kind of a sport truck. Some lower truck.
It's an off-road sport truck. I'm going to interrupt you really quick here and let you finish your thought. So back in the day, might be before you or as you were coming in, the distinction between sport quads was that the four strokes were kind of pushed out. They didn't get talked about in the sport quad deal like the two strokes did because you had the LT 250, you had the LT 500, you had the TRX 250R, you had the Banshee, and these were the sport quads that everybody wanted. You didn't talk about the 250X, 300EX, the 400EX. Well, when the 400EX came out, you did, but the 300EX, the 250X, they pushed those things aside, the Warrior, and didn't talk about them in the same sentence as you did the sport quads. So our definition is been blurred since the late 80s, if you really want.
I think it comes down to this. If you want to really broad brush it and make sense of the whole thing, if it's if unless it's just a total like beginner noob machine like a Polaris Phoenix 200, which I've never reviewed, but every review I've read in the magazines is like, yeah, it's cool, but you get bored with it really quick. You know, most ATVs out there that have ever been made, by the time you get to that 250 mark, I mean, if there's no racks, there's no hitch, it's kind of a sport quad because it's just for recreation, for tooling around. I don't, again, hark back to the 80s, the Mojave, the 300 to 250X, the Warrior, the Polaris, I think back then Cyclone, quad sport. I mean, what's in the name? Quad sport, quad racer. So, yeah, I think intended use tends to separate it. If it was built to race, it's a high performance bike. If it's built to go out and have fun and go fast on the trail, it's a sport quad. Doesn't mean you can't race the sport quad, doesn't mean you can't trail ride the high performance quad. But to circle it back to the video, it's like, one guy came in and said, the LTR 450 is the king of them all, or what is better than all of them. And like, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I can't go buy every bike that you own in your garage to put into a comparison just so you can hear us say your bike's name. I mean, we can't do that. Number one, you don't pay me. Number two, there's not budget for that because you don't pay me.
What is it,
Um,
14 years, 15 years since they made that bike?
right. I mean, when was the last year for the quad racer? 11?
2009. 2009.
Okay, I guess maybe they never brought out the tens. We did have a 2009 in our 2010 450 motocross shootout, and for everybody out there, like we get it, like we understand what you're saying. What you're really saying is you want more sport quads. You know,
Right. That's what they're saying.
that's really what they're saying. They just aren't saying it. But I get it in translation. Like you can have a ton of fun on a Scrambler S, and there's a lot of reasons you might want to own one. Same with the Renegade. That thing's insane. Like it's so fast. I mean, if you want to be scared to death to the point that your butt's puckering, that's the bike. I mean, it's like almost Banshee fast, and it's a 4x4. So it's a great machine. Now, if I'm the kind of guy that I go out to a trail and it's like, oh, a guy sent me a video the other day of this uh, Pike State Park or something like that. I think that's what the name of it was. That's about an hour and a half from me. And I'm watching him like a 30-second video, and here's like water brake hump, water brake hump, water brake hump. And I'm like, yes, that's one of these places that's got like a jump every 25 yards. You know, I can't imagine a more fun bike to take and ride there than, my Raptor or a YFZ 450R or Sport Quad, any traditional two-wheel drive Sport Quad where you can just fly off every water break. If there's a big set of roots and the first root's big, you're going to hit the first one and brap it and try to jump over the whole root garden. Stuff that you can do on a really lightweight, agile machine. And that's what makes the Raptor appealing to me. And I think that's what makes sport quads appealing to a lot of other people is the level of control that you get because you weigh half as much as the bike. The bike doesn't weigh 4 times, 5 times what you weigh. So you have more control. There's more rider machine integration. I mean, I love sport quads, but the reason we combine these machines to put a bow on this is, we don't have something to shoot out against the Raptor. And yeah, I mean, I could go bankrupt and go buy a 700 XX and go buy an old KTM 525S and put them all together and do a shoot up. Why? You can't buy those anymore. Like that's not. We're gonna keep doing old stuff. We have a 200X project video coming in the next 2 weeks that people have been waiting like 8 years for. Sorry. And there's more. We have 3 vintage bikes to test, but primarily we have to focus on what's out there, what's here, showing demand for what we need, because I feel like in a 20-year career, I've gone from evaluating the machines that I love to now, me and Jeff at Dirt Wheels are teamed up because now we have to advocate for the machines that we love and that we know
Well,
lots of other people love when the major OEMs are like, oh, nobody's interested.
well, speaking of that, not to change your thought, but we're going to divert here just 1 second. Everybody needs to freaking call your Suzuki dealer, your Suzuki reps, or whoever it is, and start screaming for the LT 450R to come back with Ken Roxon's motor in it because that guy is doing what nobody should be doing on an archaic motorcycle that's not supposed to even compete with the modern day KTM, Honda, Yamaha. He's out there doing it. So if you want an LTR, scream at Suzuki because Suzuki's kicking butt right now and they're doing great. That being said, Joe, on your 200EX deal, I'm a little upset because my rocking chair will not rock anymore because the cobwebs are so thick waiting. We need to get this thing going. Okay, brother? Just saying.
Yeah, that one took a while. There were complications. Um,
Yeah,
what
we
can I
don't.
say? I'd rather not opine.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm gonna actually turn it back over to you here because you were telling me before we started the show about yesterday, and I cut you off. What were you out doing yesterday that was so fun?
Well, yesterday, a couple months ago, Yamaha did some minor updates to the Grizzly 700 for years, and here we go. We're going to talk about segments again. Grizzly 700 is your traditional sport utility machine, and I've always really liked that bike, and the reason I like it is for a lot of the same reasons I like a sport ATV. It seems like when you look at the 4x4 category, you know, in sport, everybody wants a new 450. That's mostly the number one thing you see them want. They want a new 450 or they want a new two-stroke. And that's the sport guys. There they are. In the sport utility side and sport 4x4 side, it seems like the only bikes that get real hype, and although the viewership doesn't necessarily indicate it, but everybody's like, why doesn't Yamaha build a 1000? Well, I hope they do, and everybody's all about these huge monster bikes. And the monster bikes are a lot of fun. They are, don't get me wrong. And I'm not bad mouthing them. I mean, the Outlander 1000 should probably be ATV of the year this year because it's all new and it's so good. But those big, heavy 1000s, when we talk about sport, when I think of sport 4x4, I kind of get a little different thought of that than it seems like a lot of people. And a lot of people think 90 horsepower plus. It's sport 4x4. It's got to be able to drag race a Banshee. And it's like sport quad doesn't necessarily mean raw horsepower in drag race. Like there's so much more to it than drag racing. And if all you care about is drag racing, you're pretty boring, in my opinion, because there's so much more to being a good rider than going in a straight line. And to me, I'm just a guy, and I don't represent everybody. This is just my opinion, and I take the opinions of all my riders. So yesterday I went out with Aaron Meyer, who's probably one of my very first riders. We've been together almost 20 years. I was thinking last night, testing quads. And he jumps on that Grizzly yesterday, and I just told him, hey, power steering's been updated for this year. Feels really light when you're sitting still. See if it feels twitchy at high speed. And, some people think these things have a little bit of body roll in them. So I brought a spanner wrench if we want to change the preload on the shocks. So, yesterday was a half freeze, half thaw day. There was a lot of snow on the ground in spots, and then, exposed ground in others. And Aaron's out here, and man, like 5 minutes in, he's just slamming the throttle to the stop, just freaking hauling. And I'm watching this guy, and Aaron was a pro level motocrosser at one point. He was a legit pro-am guy. Did some pro racing, but definitely legit at that A pro-am level. And he's just out here, and he gets off the bike, and every time he gets off the quad, he's just like, man, this Grizzly 700 is so good. Like, he says, this thing feels lighter, so much lighter than those 1000s. Aaron rode in our 1000 4x4 shootout back in 2020, and which was the Outlander 1000, the Gen 2, not the Gen 3, versus the Sportsman 1000. In that Sportsman, it's wide and it's pretty stable, but you're coming into corners and you're hitting the brakes, and the front end's diving and it's rolling hard, and it doesn't feel unstable, but it feels very rolly, and he's getting off the Grizzly, and he's just like, I can't believe how light this thing feels. Like, it wheelies so good. And I told Jen last night, I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, the biggest problem with the video I shot with Aaron today is that I think he had the front wheels off the ground half the time, and intentionally. He'd come over a little rise, a little trail in the bump, just a little bump in the trail, and boom, and he's carrying that front end, and he's just riding a wheelie for 25, 50 yards because because that bike's easy to wheelie. It's easy to bring the front end up. It doesn't have as long of a wheelbase as the big 1000s. Well, the Outlander's now got a big long wheelbase like the Polaris. So for that whole class. Like, it's got a shorter wheelbase than those bikes. Yamaha, I know that bike is dated, but they so nailed the mass centralization of the Grizzly. Like, it's a 8-pound bike, fully loaded with fuel, but it feels 100 pounds lighter than it is. The 1000s, I mean, Lenny, you rode the new Outlander. Like, it steers light, right? It steers light, and the suspension protects you from a lot of the bumps.
If you'd have told me that was a 1,000-pound quad, which I already knew, but if you'd have told me that while I was riding it, I'd have told you you're full of shit.
Until you jump it. Or until if it gets
A
on
little
two wheels, you got to jerk it back down if it starts to come up. Those are the times when you feel the weight.
Right.
When you override the bike and you have to bring it back under control, that's when you feel the weight. If you get it off the ground, you're not moving that bike in the air. It's going to go where you point it as you leave the ground. You know, there's not a lot of changing the trajectory once you're up there. The Grizzly, you get it in the air, and like, you can just get a couple feet of air and you can pull the bars and move the bike in the air with your arms and your legs, almost like a sport machine.
What's the horsepower rating of that machine?
Like 48 horsepower.
Well, how do you think it will compare in the woods with a Renegade?
Well, let's go Outlander. You know, and if I had one, I'd do it. And I may get another one so I can. You know, and that's what Aaron was saying yesterday. He's like, I know this thing is not as fast in a straight line as those 1 liters. He's like, but man, in the woods when I'm changing direction all the time, and he was jumping it. He says yesterday, this thing is so cool because I can come around a corner over a little rise, and I've got him on video. He's like, front wheels are in the air, power sliding the back end, you know, and I'm not saying you can't do that on a 1 liter, but it's a whole lot harder to do those kind of moves. Just little things will let you get that Raptor in a week. I'm sorry, I call it a Raptor. It is. It's almost Raptorish. It's so different. Like, it's the other kind of sport utility to me, which I think people don't take into consideration. It's like, sporty doesn't just mean a ton of horsepower. Sporty can be enough horsepower to go fast on most any trail with a light, agile machine that handles extremely responsively, is very agile. You know, you want to bring the front end up because you're gonna wheelie off a creek bank, you know, that's 2-3 foot drop into the creek. With the Grizzly, you can do it consistently over and over. It's got good torque. It's got a short enough wheelbase. You can get that front end up. If you got to wheelie over a log, you can do it. You know, in so many ways, it handles better. And I'm not saying it has better suspension than an Outlander 1000, but I'm saying it has good suspension. And in so many ways, it handles better. And when I say handle, I'm talking about that your ability as a rider to get that machine to do what you want, when you want, because, you know, Aaron's probably 170 pounds and, you know, just all day long yesterday, I can't believe how good this thing handles. He's like, I don't know what people are talking about. It has body roll. It doesn't. It's like, Aaron doesn't see it because Aaron's on the gas all the time. If you're going down a hill and you're just fiddle faddling around and you're scared and you're on the brakes, yeah, it's got a little front end dive. Aaron's like everywhere on the gas, back end squatting out, and back end's hunkering down, and it's going.
You ride it. These, what some people are calling the deficiencies of body roll, aren't as apparent if you're actually out riding it the way you should,
If
or
you're on the
riding
gas,
more aggressively.
yeah, you don't notice the body roll as much if you're aggressive, I don't think. And it's like I said to Aaron, like, and it's good. Throw a set of Elkas on it, might be a little better.
What was
we put a set of Elkas on a Sportsman, and it totally transformed that bike. So, I mean, if you think your Grizzly's got a little too much body roll, throw a set of Elka Stage 4s on it. I'm sure it'll be better.
So what
But it's
made the day
good.
so fun?
What's that?
What made the day so fun?
What made it so fun? Watching someone with such a high skill set do things that, number one, I can't do, ride faster than I can ride faster than most people can ride. Like, he just took that Grizzly, for the camera yesterday to the limit. And because even when I'm telling Aaron, like, hey, remember, take it easy, we're breaking it in. Yeah, he thinks he's taking it easy. You can't ride that fast. And I don't mean you, but I mean like most people can't ride at the pace where I'm like, take it easy today, we're breaking it in. It's broken. Um, it's broken now. Watching the dude do wheelie slides, and he was coming up this big long hill that had a hump at the top, and you know he's a couple feet in the air, jumping 10 feet out on this thing, and I'm like, did you bottom the suspension? No. He could have if he tried, but he said he never felt the suspension go full bottom all day yesterday. But he's smooth, he's precise. Aaron just rides at such a level that it's fun to watch. And everything that I feel about that Grizzly, as far as it's light, it's agile, it's nimble, it is so much sportier than people think. I think everybody's so obsessed with the horsepower thing, they overlook the agility and the light, the nimble, the agile. Again, at GNCC last year, you had a guy on an Outlander 700 podium, the Pro 4x4 class. Yes, a couple big names had problems. That doesn't matter. You know,
So, so when did we take an Aaron to a GNCC to see what this thing will do in the pro class?
we wouldn't have to twist his arm very hard. We would not. We would not. And I've thought about that. We're going to do, regardless of how the shootout turns out, I'm going to be a fanboy of the Grizzly 700 just because I love it. I love that agility, nimble feeling. We're going to try to line up the competition. I know that Can-Am is ready to go to war with that Yamaha. They want a piece of it, and Yamaha's not scared. We've talked to both of those companies. I'd like to try to get Suzuki involved with a King Quad 750. I still think that's a viable machine for a lot of people. They've tweaked it through the years and made it better. Honda just restyled the Rincon into the 4x4 Rubicon automatic, which is an interesting machine. I haven't ridden one. I'm sure I'll like it. I don't know if I'll love it. We'll find out. But we want to put the big bore singles, everything that's kind of 600 and up. I want to cut off the 570s. Otherwise, it's just going to get out of hand. And try to do about a 4 quad shootout between Honda, Suzuki, Can-Am, Yamaha. Um, CF Moto's 600 is not quite a true 600. I don't think. I think it's under 6. So I'll probably, if we do a mid-bore single shootout where we bring in all the 570s and let them duke it out, kind of like that 5 to 600 class, we'd probably bring them in. We'll see. If Suzuki doesn't come to the table, maybe I'll invite CF Moto to jump in. But I don't know. We may take the winner of that shootout and say, hey, Aaron, let's go race at GNCC. Or maybe we'll just let Aaron pick his favorite if he was into it, and throw a few parts at it and go do it. But Aaron's saying yesterday, like, I wouldn't do a darn thing to this quad. The one problem we had is the seat kept coming off. Yamaha needs to put a latch system on that seat like they do the Raptor, the YFZ. It's kind of got that old. Honda had it, but they also had a latch, where you have like these rubber grommets and you push these big push pins down through them. I
Still
like to see
clicked into place.
what's that?
That seat didn't click into place.
It came off a couple of times,
Yeah, but
but
it didn't have a deal when the when you put the post through the rubber, it always on all the other models, it always had a click, like a latch, like you were saying. This one doesn't have a latch on it.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I didn't stop and look at it yesterday. Aaron kept putting it back on. He's smart enough to know. I should know, but whatever. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's just rubber grommets, and might be good enough for your average guy who gets one. But, if you ride it like you stole it, you might lose the seat. Who knows? That's something that could be easily remedied. So,
Right. Right.
um, chances are you can't ride like Aaron Meyer, so you probably don't need to worry about it.
Wow. Aaron, that was a great job, buddy. So, what I want to transition to now is last week we didn't have a show. You knew where I was, not everybody else does. I got invited to go to Race to a Race 22, the Social Dirt Cantina in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was invited by Square One Speed and Team Blind. They were presenting a machine to the amputee team, and Adam is one of their riders. And it was a pretty emotional event. You've seen some pictures, Joe, and Ian did a wonderful job putting that machine together. Him and Jason have invested a lot of their time and money. ATV-TALK will be presenting a story on it here shortly. We have a series of videos that we're going to produce and let everybody know what it was really like. The jersey over my shoulder here is Jason Zittle's. It was signed by Ian. Jason couldn't make it out, but this was a fantastic thing that was done for this team of three amputee riders. They're all from the lower half, where they're missing legs or a leg, and they had to put a handlebar shifter on it, which, if you've ever got to use one, they're fantastic. I'd almost put one on my sport quad just because
Is it electronic or is it manual?
it's electronic.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and it's
So
got
it's
a little
like it's like putting electric push button shifting from like a Honda onto your sport quad.
basically same device. They're looking at trying to adapt some of the Honda electrical shifters onto the. I apologize for getting the name of this hydraulic system, electric hydraulic system on there. Um, they It works so good. They put a recluse clutch in there so that you could drop it into first gear. It doesn't go anywhere till you give it gas, which makes it much easier for these guys to control. You have to reach down and click it back into neutral by hand, if you don't have a foot on that side, um, or if somebody's there helping you, because the machine won't click itself back into neutral. I'm sure we could work on that, but for what we were doing, it didn't hurt anything, didn't make a difference, wasn't a problem. Um, the overall package for these guys, they had a special modified seat so that when they put their legs in there was little humps that would catch right behind where your calf would be,
Yeah.
and it would catch the leg and keep the leg. It doesn't keep the leg on there, but it does help guide the leg and hold it. And then they put some magnets in the foot pegs for to keep their feet on the pegs, or to keep their boots on the pegs, because there's magnets in both. So there were some pretty ingenious setups so that they could keep their feet in place, if they don't have the control of the leg. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it sounds it sounds like so much thought must have gone into doing this build.
Oh, they've been talking about it for well over 2 years on how to develop it and getting feedback from the riders. A couple of them had raced motorcycles and were asking for special things, and hey, we should do this or we should do that. And we made some upgrades, talking with Ian, talking with the riders. We have gotten some additional parts for the machine, and we'll do a follow-up story when we put those components on there. But for us to be invited, just to get invited to do that, um, I was pretty honored, and I never in a million years thought that it would be that emotional. I mean, it was talking with Adam, Cara, I forget how to pronounce her last name. She is a paraplegic. She's lost everything lost all of the movement from her waist down, not from a accident, but from another issue. She'll be coming on the podcast to explain all that. But she drives UTVs and trucks, and I mean, just you'd think that this young lady was normal. I mean, she is normal. She's better off than most people that I know. that don't
She's
have any.
yeah, I was gonna say she sounds braver than me.
Oh,
So
super, super brave. I mean, she jumped on the quad and rode it for us and gave us feedback. Um, yeah, I learned a lot about her deficiencies and the amputee deficiencies and what their mental states are. You know, hers is attack everything. Adam and the other guys are now given a mission and a new lease on life because their mission was taken away from them. And
so how many of these? So there's three of them total, right? Three
three
riders.
guys, yeah, and I didn't get to meet the other two because they were not present. They couldn't make it. Jason Zittel was supposed to be there, but he got snowed in at home. He couldn't make it. So we will get a group together and let everybody meet them on the show and on video. Maybe we'll even go support them at a race and videotape that, you know, just so that everybody can see this in action. My main portion of bringing it up, Joe, wasn't to put anybody in a downer. It's to put everybody in an upper. These guys now have a mission. They are now going to race Legacy or Best in the Desert, and they're going to go out and compete for victories in the specific class that they sign them up in. I believe that these guys want to eventually get to the pro class.
Oh man, hey, I think it's important, man. You know, it's important that people. I mean, it's not a downer. It's like, you know, I know people that have been sitting here for years in a state of depression because their girlfriend broke up with them, and I'm just like simp, you know. And then you've got people here that have life-changing injuries, and you know, they're like, nah, I ain't quitting. You know, I'm not giving up. No, I mean, yeah, there's nothing downer about it. It's like these are role models. These are role models for everyday people. It's like, yeah, you're upset. Look what the hell they're doing, and look what they're doing. You know, shut up and get out and get back at life. You know,
And that's
people
what,
don't.
you know, that's what Adam and Cara are doing. They're out frickin' living life. And now the amputee guys have been given another lease on life and a whole new direction that, you know, until this project started, they were sitting on the sidelines, but they were so excited to go pit, to dump gas, to just be there, you know, to help change a tire or, you know, watch the bike come and go. They just wanted to be involved. And now they've got their own package to put together and get it out there on the race course.
Yeah, it's such an undertaking. So like beyond the, you know, obviously it's like the difficulty in getting it to where somebody who doesn't have the use of their legs, it's like you can stay on the bike, stay attached to the bike. How do you shift the bike? You know, beyond that, you know, what's the general setup like on it? Is it a mostly stock bike? Is it a highly modified bike? Like,
So it's got Elkas all the way around it. It's got some plus 2A arms to give it a better ride. It's got you know, a special insert tire splines and I forget surf tires, SURF surf tires. It's a new
Sun F,
brand. Snuff. Yeah, there it is. It's SNUF. Right?
SUNF?
Yeah,
I
is
think
that
it's I think that's what it is.
Yep. And
We're gonna get yelled at by Ian Thomas later for botching this, but sorry, Ian.
right, but you know what? I didn't have a cue card for it, and I get a little jumbled talking about it, and it's not because I want to jumble it. It's because I just get that little lump in my throat when I talk about it. And you know what? I didn't even know Adam until I got there. You know, and we were halfway through the day before him and I even got to really have a conversation with each other. Um, Same with Cara, you know, because there was so many things happening, and we were trying to get everybody, you know, get their opinions, let them feel out the bikes. Didn't want to put pressure on them because it was a hugely emotional thing for both of them. And you know, Adam had some tears going, and I know that Ian held it back really well. He's a big dude, and you think, you look at this big, you know, military tough guy, and he's choking back the tears there and holding it in, and I would never call him out for that, but I was over there doing the same thing, watching him, and it's not even my brethren, really. I'm not we're a military family, but we're in the military like these guys are, and we're
Right.
all
How
of them,
many how many of the riders on the team were former military?
all of
All of them.
yep, all of them. And that's another bonus. And if you know what Race to a Race is all about, these people are dedicating their lives to bring awareness to suicide. Military people coming back from whatever it is, whatever challenge they had in their deployment or their life, and committing suicide. And these Race to a Race and the Cantina are there to give these veterans and everybody around a place to go and um, talk out some of their problems, not be judged by their issues, not be judged because they're having an issue, but hey, we're here to help you, or we're just here to listen, or you can you can come work on your bike. They have some machines there and for other riders, and you can just work on it, or you can just sit on it, or you can just make yourself something to eat, and then go back to your regular day. It doesn't matter. That's what the canteen is there for. Something that I hope that we can get you out to the West Coast to come and experience, because I really think that you would find it amazing. These people have just opened this up to the veteran community, the race community, and Race to a Race is so much bigger than their effect is so much bigger than anybody realizes. Yes, it's a small little entity, but its impact is so large, and it touches riders from all across the country and all across the south of the border, north of the border. They're touching people from all over, and big shout out. It was a great experience. Like I said, I hope to get you out there so that you can be part of it, Joe. I wanted to get Jeff. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but it would have been great for Dirt Wheels to be there as well. I think that as far as covering things like that, you, Jeff, and I are spearheading it. I don't see anybody else out, jumping on these things and talking about it like they should. So I just wanted to bring that up and tell
That's
everybody.
a great, yeah, that's a great story. It is.
I hope I do it justice when it comes out on video, because I'll have the names correctly, the names, and I won't step on everything so bad like I did here today. So I apologize for that, everybody. So please forgive me, but take your hats off if you get a chance to talk to Ian. Give him an attaboy. Jason Zittle deserves one too, and we'll get more information on the team and how they're doing and what they're doing, and get everybody updated on that as we can.
It,
So go ahead.
it would be nice if we could get some of that National Guard sports sponsorship money to spin on that team.
Well, you know what? I hope the new administration looks at something like this as a positive, because the Veteran Affairs does such a shitty job taking care of the veterans. Hopefully, they could look at things like this and realize that, okay, everybody says, "Oh, it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous." Well, getting shot at's way more dangerous than riding an ATV.
Hey, you know what though? It's hey, they're out taking chances to enjoy their life. It's their right, why not? I mean, I'm sure they've had disabled vets jump out of airplanes. So you don't have to leave the ground too much to do this, just a little bit.
Right. And after you've put the training that they went through, the skill level they had at whatever they were doing, whether they were infantry or special ops, whatever, they're still people. They still had adrenaline in their lives. But now we're giving them a little bit of back. They thought that they weren't able to do this or they weren't able to do that. Well, now they're going to go out and do that. And They're going to go out and race. They do get an angel rider to go with them. What that is it'll be somebody, whether they're on a motorcycle or in an ATV, that will follow them. They're not in the race, but they're there in case they need help.
They basically get a pit guy that gets to hang out with them a little bit throughout the race.
Yeah, just because, yeah, that guy gets pitted at the same time they do, and they have radios. Well, they're working on the radio setup for them so that they can, have communications during the race and everything. It's a really big undertaking. Then there's a lot of volunteers and just it's amazing. But like I said, let's hope Veteran Affairs and the new administration gets involved. It'll take some push, but we'll see what we can do. I have another
Amen.
question for you from the chat there, Joe. So I'm just a regular guy, and I want to get a hold of my manufacturer and tell them I want a sport quad. Where's the first place I'm going to go to, other than the dealership, to tell them that I want a sport quad? What's your suggestion?
I think there's a couple key places to do it. Um, especially if you've got friends that ride too. Troll them on social media. You know, if you see Suzuki posting something, check out our new DRZ 400 dual sport. Yeah, why don't you stick that in a quad? You know, check out our new Hayabusa, blah blah blah. Yeah, how about a LTR 450? When you post it on, like they say, you put it on the internet, it's there forever. I wish we could, honestly, if I had the dream, I wish we could just absolutely bombard them to the point that they'd hate us enough to build one to make us go away. Um, I don't care. Like, do it to take our money or do it to shut us up. Just do it. Another good way to do it would be, do it old school. I'm a big fan of social media trolling for this, but most of these companies have a customer service phone number. Um, it's not quite as in your face, but the social media people often maybe aren't as connected. As an example, last week, here's Can-Am posting another, video of a sport quad. And I'm calling my contacts at Can-Am and going, are you investigating? Are you trying to feel it out? Or did you just hire someone to run your social media that doesn't even understand that you don't make this anymore? And they're smarter than maybe some of the people at the factory. And they're like, wow, this thing looks really cool. This thing looks like it's a lot of fun. I should post it. Turns out that it was the last. Somebody in social media is like, oh, this looks fun. Let's post it up. Looks entertaining. Looks fun. Yeah, we feel the same way. But the
Is it?
company doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
the company's afraid to talk too. If we're really going to get with Can-Am, they are afraid to sit down with us and have a one-on-one conversation because we're going to bring up the sport quad issue and they have no defense. I've been fighting to get them on the show since we did the ride in British Columbia mid what when was that last year? Summertime?
ish.
Yeah. Into summer, we went and rode that in British Columbia, and I've been reaching out to him every couple of weeks to try to get somebody on the show, and we just can't make it happen. They just don't seem to want to talk in public about their product or a sport quad, a supposed sport quad.
Wait, you know, Honda Honda has more fanboys than any other brand for good reason because they made the best three wheeler. They made the best three wheelers. Um, in my opinion, I'll have that debate with anybody. They made one of the best four wheelers. They made one of the three 450s we needed to keep. The TRX, the LTR, and the YFZR. Those are the three we needed. Those were the three best. Um, you know, where the hell am I going with this? I'm kind of I kind of had a brain fart. Um, but okay, yeah, I do. I know what I'm saying. There's so many Honda fanboys out there. You know what? Kissing their ass isn't getting you anywhere.
No, I
You know,
mean, no, it's
oh,
not.
oh, my 2010 Honda 450R that I bought for $3,500 with a bunch of expensive shit that somebody else paid for will hang with this new Yamaha. Well, I'll go buy one. You can't. And in 20 more years of this,
That Honda ain't going to be there.
and if it is, what's it going to cost? When we started our three-wheeler videos 11 years ago, you could go buy a nice ATC 250R for $1,800. You could go buy a nice 350X for, $2,200. You could go buy a nice 200X for $900, $1,000. Today, all those prices have, some of them have doubled, some of them have quadrupled, quintupled, 4 or 5 times what they were. You just sit here and be happy with your crap that Honda made 15 years ago, and it wasn't crap then, but it's getting crappier now because you can't even get parts for it, so it's turning to crap. And if you find some survivor 15 years from now and you think that's the answer to the sport quad thing, you ain't going to be able to go buy you a used TRX 450R for that price. Because all those people that were kids in 2005, like all those people that were kids in 1985, are going to take what's left of those $3,500, $4,000 450Rs, and they're going to be $8,000. They're going to be $10,000. They're going to be like what a 250R is. That's not sustaining the sport. So my whole thing is, you know what? Stop being a fanboy and be pissed.
That they should be.
Don't go on the internet and I love my Honda. You know what? Honda sucks because they left us.
Yep.
Now I love Honda dirt bikes. I love Honda generators. I'd fly in a Honda Jet. Honda makes some nice cars. Acura if you're bougie. But sucking up ain't working. Sucking up ain't working. Seems like in this day and age with politics, what gets attention is when you're a bitter bitch. Ask Target, ask Bud Light. Obviously way different issues, but people starting to not be so positive about your brand anymore makes you rethink. So stop. Don't kiss the butts of manufacturers that don't care about you.
Right on. I agree.
Them.
I agree. That's why, I used to be anti the China market coming in, and then I got to get involved with this little KO thing, and I looked at some of the other stuff that's coming from China, and I'm not satisfied, but I'm not unhappy. I thought Can-Am was kind of a joke for a long time. That after riding that Outlander, they're a real company. They don't do things the way I think they should be done, but they're doing them well. They're putting machines out there that are good. So there's a bigger world out there than the little bubble that I was raised in. And, the LTR, good machine, got some issues, good machine. The Kawasaki quad, the 450, I think it handled great, other than the electronics were horrible for the average guy that would have never had the motor issues that the racing community had. It was a great bike for the recreational crowd. Some of the other stuff that was built by, so this is LTZ 400. What a cool machine, and it was great priced, function, did everything it was supposed to do, and they're pretty damn reliable.
I love that bike. Really honestly, LTZ 400, we could talk about that for an hour.
Let's not say we did.
Right, but it's a perfect recreational sport quad. I mean, I used to joke back in the day of like, hey, those Z4 and before the carbureted one came out, the fuel injected one came out, because I think most of us who were there for the press ride were kind of on the same pool of it got a little wider, it got fuel injected, it looked a little better, win. suspension took a step backwards. It got a little stiffer. The carbureted Z400s, my big joke was, oh, that's the best for the trail. That's the best suspension in the 450 class because it was plush. It had enough bottoming resistance that you could, drop it off of 3-4 foot ledge into a creek and you wouldn't get crushed. You could take it out on the track and play with it, and it held up decently. It had decent suspension. It wasn't like it was a GNC contender, but it was plenty to play with, and yet it was plush in the woods. I love that bike. Good low end power. Mod for mod against a 400EX. Every dollar you spend, you get a bigger return on investment. Z400 was great.
Yeah, but you can't kind of hard to beat that 400EX, dude. That thing was badass. I still love those bikes. They're still fun to ride. They're so smooth, and they run forever. I mean, they flat run forever.
I own one. I'm a
Yeah.
fan. No,
I mean,
it's
we own 3 or 4 of them. So, I mean, well, I don't, but the little group, my brother and the other people that go to the desert, they all have, I think Lauren's got 2 of them, and one of my good close friends has got 2 or 3 of them. My grandson's got one. So yeah, we have 400EXs. Oh, come on now, 867 diesel. It wasn't junk. It just wasn't what you preferred.
which one is he saying is junk?
400EX. you know I have to beg, professionally disagree with you, because I have customers that ride those things and have been riding them since 99, and they're still riding them. And I guess it's all in where you take them. And if you overbuild them, and I can't tell you what was done to yours or by the person that did it. I can just tell you that we've had great success and great luck with them. So that's all I can tell you. I'm not
I,
trying to disagree with the man. It is what it is.
I know John Pellant would tell me from ATV Scene. He told me that he got a chance to get an early peek at one. Like, he knew where there was one in somebody's shed that no one knew about before they came out. And him and, oh, who was it? I don't remember who he said was with him, but somebody else. And I'll get him to tell this story when we do our retro test on the 400EX. But he's like, we went in this barn and it was night, and I reached my hand in the crate. I'm feeling around on it, and I was like, he said, and I felt the fins on the cylinder because it was air cold. And he was like, oh shit, just not happy because by that point in '99, they wanted something that was the equivalent of a YZ400 engine
Right.
in a chassis, which hindsight 2020, 4-strokes hurt the industry more than they helped it probably. But yeah, he was unhappy with the fact that it was air cooled. But I got one. It handles great. For a 46-inch wide machine, it handles really good. I don't think it was the 250R replacement we wanted, but
No, it wasn't.
argue a great trail bike that you can build into whatever you want and have fun with. And
So,
well, just don't
so
touch the motor too much.
well, find somebody that knows how to work on it. Um,
Good enough.
so have you seen the deal on the internet about the ATC 250R that was sold in the crate? So I was talking to a guy, called me on the phone, don't know who it is, said that somebody sold a 250R in the crate, all encased in plastic, for over 100 grand. Have you seen
200.
it? It was 200 grand?
It's what I saw on the internet. And if it's on the internet, it's true.
Right.
Yeah, they're spending supercar money.
I heard it was like 130 grand or 100. Yeah, it was 130 grand. But I watched a little brief video. The thing, yes, 50 grand. So the numbers all over, nobody knows the truth. Um,
It was somewhere between 50 and 2 million.
well, there you go. But still, the fact that they encased it in a plastic deal, and rolled it into this um, guy's, you know, hidden collection was pretty amazing. They were also talking about the collectors and how many different machines and the prices that they're selling the shit for. It's unbelievable, you know.
You know, I
Advanced.
look at I, I look at Binky's, and I think what Binky's doing is kind of cool. You know, I like the fact that, you know, I remember the first time I saw a dealership as a kid. It was, yeah, well, maybe it wasn't it was one of my first memories of even seeing a power sports dealership up close. It was closed. It was a Sunday. It was 1989. And I'm looking in the window, and here's a row of like 250R, 250R, LT 500, LT 500, LT 250, LT 250, 250X. You know, all these bikes when they were brand new on a showroom floor, and it was just like, oh, just a row of like all the stuff that's selling for so much money today, and kind of burn a memory in my head. You know, so I like what Binky's is doing. It's cool for people to go see all those old machines maybe they remember seeing as a kid or they owned, or just even some of the cool stuff that nobody's ever seen before. Like, you know, I'm sure he's got Tigers there, and I don't know if he has any Kajivas, but probably does. But I think, you know, there's so many people, and I don't want to name names because I'd probably like to work with them at some point, maybe. But you got so many people who are just hoarding bikes now. They're just filling barns with like 50 of the get buying every color of a machine.
I like
You
the
know, and
one
it's,
that all the Banshees.
oh, the Banshee channel.
87, 87 up, and they're all factory. I love that. Um,
I
but
love it till I love it till I want to buy one.
yeah, you can't buy Banshee. You have to struggle to buy Banshees now, and
Oh,
and
it's
they're all
it.
overpriced.
Oh, they're all overpriced, which is why I'm just like, Kawasaki, please put a 302 stroke in an ATV, so we can just ruin the dreams of all these people with these old two strokes that think they're worth so much more than they are. Because ain't no clapped out ass Banshee worth $6,000. Never, never, not
Not
for
clapped
me.
out. No, not clapped out. I mean, I have people ask about you see the machines that we post and the work that we do, and they think that that's excessive. Oh, well, take the chrome off of it, and it'll cheapen the price. No, because you're still buying the billet parts. You're still doing the labor. You didn't drop the price that much because you took the chrome off or the polish off. You know, I'm sorry, but they cost what it costs. I mean, the price of eggs didn't go down, milk didn't go down, gas didn't go down, electricity didn't go down, and you expect me to work for, $3 an hour? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I don't. You know, I think we should have a shared experience here with this. Um, I kind of get it, but I don't get it. You know, like, number one, like a lot of the stuff that you guys, I mean, like, you went out and shot with Jeff last week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, like that 420 Banshee you guys did, that Banshee that's on the cover of Dirt Wheels.
Right. Things awesome.
Um, that's like what? What does that bike cost?
Well,
Roughly.
I don't want to give the customers deal out, but you're into it for 35.
If I called you up and said, Lenny,
You're into it for not counting the price of the bike. You're all over 35 grand.
right, right. And a lot of these builds, you know, and that somebody paid that, like somebody who had the money wanted it, so they bought it. You know, I've built bikes in the past. And it sounds like a lot, you know, but back in 2005, I bought a YFZ from Yamaha and built which at the time seemed outrageous, but now it'd be even more. You know, I built a $25,000 YFZ for myself, rode it one time, went, what the hell am I doing with this? And sold it immediately. I was like, I did not even want to own this thing. It's like, I would have liked it better stock. Um, Parts don't make it better, but we do these builds, and like you guys do builds. Well, you got customers that have money that want it. And then sometimes when you guys, I'm sure when you've done magazine builds and like in the 80s, in the 90s, like maybe you guys took and just threw a whole bunch of parts of the bike. Like I'm sure Duncan, and I know I have, like we do like catalog builds, like the 250R stuff that we did, on the vintage ATC 250R and the 350X. I had people in the three-wheel community that got pissed that we had done those builds, that were like, this is not good. You're just driving up the price of this sport. And it's like, look, dude, not everybody wants to ride a three-wheeler because it's the cheapest thing you can buy, because you're buying reject machines that nobody wants. That's not where we're at now, but that's where we were at for quite a few years. Nobody
Right,
wanted.
right. So, I mean, I didn't bring that up to have a discussion about it, but you know, people when they deal with the company that I work for and the way we do it, they get a detailed breakdown, detailed to the penny breakdown minus shipping before we even move forward. So they know what it's going to cost before the job.
Sure.
And so there's so the people that are the naysayers, or the guys that are like, oh, I can get it cheaper. You can't get what I do cheaper. Sorry, you just can't. You're not going to buy what I do from anyone else in the world cheaper. It's not going to happen.
Those builds, like, and I'm sure a lot of readers and viewers on the internet don't understand, like, that might be a customer bike, or you're just showing what all can be done. Like that 250R build that we did. It's like, okay, you want a motor? Here's where you get your motor. You want your frame touched up? Here's who can do your frame. You need a swing arm for that thing? Here's who's got it. We all need axles. Here's who's got it. You know, catalog builds, yeah, they're over the top, but it's not intended for, like, you don't have to do this whole bike. You don't have to buy all this stuff. If you want to, you can. But a lot of the times when we do, like you guys, I'm sure for yourselves, just for publicity, if it's not a customer bike or something we build, we're just saying, hey, here's all you can do. If you want to go all the way, this is what you can get. Um, and hey, when at my first quad, I bought brand new. I should have bought a 300EX. I bought a Warrior. Oops. But no regrets. It got me started. I looked at those magazine builds and what the racers were racing on their race quads and what brands and what parts. And, it got me buying parts. And for years, I'd spend every dime I made buying parts for my four-wheelers. You got to give somebody something to aspire to.
Right, right. I agree. And,
It's
and,
just not.
and I don't want to take anything away from any of the other builders. Those guys are out there working just as hard as I do. Just because we disagree on the level or the quality of part that you use doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just in their world, that's what they want to use. And if that's where you want to be, or that's the level or the plateau that you want to stop at, please do. Um, I'm not trying to call it down, because I do other level builds for people all the time that aren't doing like that bike that's on the cover of Dirt Wheels. But I have a couple guys that are eclipsing that at the moment, because that's what they want. And that's what
Right,
they're doing.
sure. Yeah, and there's different ways. I mean, there's, again, it's like you got the guys out there coming full circle that say sport utilities aren't really, or sport 4x4s aren't real sport quads. Like, they are to somebody, maybe not to you. They are to somebody, and some people, my buddy Nick Lalani, I'm not picking on him. I respect the guy. Like, does he have the best setup on his four-wheelers at any given time? No, he could spend way more money and probably get better setups than what he's got. But he'll buy shocks. He'll buy some A-arms. He'll buy some shocks. He'll try it out. He might change some springs. He might change some valving to make it all work together. But he makes it all work together, and he's happy, and he's having a good time, and he's not spending an absolute ridiculous fortune, because, I don't know how much money he's got. Maybe he's got it, but he chooses not to spend it. And he's having a great time, and he's playing with four-wheelers. Great. And some people are out there that are just like, I want this thing to breathe fire and I want it to look like it does. And great, you know. So yeah, just do what makes you happy. Do it on the budget or spend a
Exactly.
fortune.
Everybody's got a fun meter and it pegs somewhere. Where mine pegs and where yours peg, they're totally different. And that's okay. Don't get out of your world because of what someone else did. Stay in your area. One of the problems we get is keeping up with the Joneses and spending too much money because my buddy did this or my buddy did that. No, just stay in your world and build what you want to build for your fun. And missing that 85 ATC 250R that you had when you were 13, be careful because the price you paid then is nowhere near the price you're going to pay now to replace it. It's
Oh yeah.
unbelievably expensive, and yeah, it's
I,
it's
I almost I
go ahead.
almost feel like we could do a whole show on modifying bikes and building them and where you can cut corners and where you can't. I don't think you cut corners when it comes to safety. I think there's certain kinds of parts that you can buy aftermarket for your quad where it's cheaper and maybe it makes sense. But I think there's other parts where it's like it's not. Now, chrome A arms versus non-chrome A arms. You're talking what? I was going to say $300 to $500 difference
You're probably talking close to 750 nowadays.
just for chrome.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
I'm going without chrome. Hey, that chrome powder coat's looking a whole lot better these days, kids.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I understand, there's ways to save money and there's ways you shouldn't try to save money.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but I
agree.
think that's
So why don't we agree to continue this conversation next Sunday morning? Everybody in the chat, please join in. We're going to talk about building your sport quad, whether it be a Warrior 400EX, a Z400, and the do's and the don'ts, the pluses, the minuses. And we're going to really get into it with some of the costs and the safety factors and the things that you should buy. What do you say, Joe? Meet me here next
oh,
Sunday?
that's the kind of conversation that gets me excited. There's no getting mad at manufacturers who don't care about us at that point. It's like, oh, we're talking about catalog shopping. So yeah, that's good times for me. You could tell that strikes a spot. So yeah.
So get your internet search down, Joe, and we'll be ready to talk all about this next Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hey, have you guys gotten your Dirt Wheels subscription yet? If you haven't, you need to reach out to Dirt Wheels and get that today, because there's an amazing Banshee on the cover. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I am. So just go ahead and get your subscription for Dirt Wheels. You can check them out online or on Instagram as well, but it'd be better if you get the magazine so you can smell that fresh print and read
Oof.
all about all the new the old sport quads that they're publishing and talking about. So,
Yeah, and they're pushing for the new stuff and I just re-upped my subscription. No, I don't get comped. I paid for it and yeah, it's cool. It's
I pay
cool.
for mine too. I mean, I'm promoting Dirt Wheels because they're the last print magazine that I know of that's out there pushing the ATV industry instead of the UTV industry. Even though that, hey guys, look at their their sponsors, the people that are paying them to be in the magazine, come from the UTV side. That brings me to UTV on demand on ATV on demand. That's Joe Tolle. That's the guy that's sitting here talking with us. So go out and subscribe to him. He can help, that helps him in the algorithms and gets his videos viewed more. So get your subscription to them as well. ATV Talk brings you 3 different shows a week. If I'm out of town or busy, we may miss a morning show or we may miss an Instagram show. But Tuesdays, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, you'll always catch that audio show. And we have different guests all the time or different subjects that we're going to talk about. So check that out. One of the big name guys is coming. Well, there's 2 big name guys coming back to back. So they're former champions. They're both trying to win championships this year. So check those guys out on Tuesday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. The bench prep conversations are at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, live on Instagram, and the morning show, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on YouTube. Joe, what do you got in closing, sir?
Who won GNCC yesterday? I was out filming. I don't even know anything about anything.
Didn't race.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I didn't miss anything
Hey,
then.
we didn't even talk about GNCC, and we were supposed to. We'll have to catch that next week after the second round comes out. But Walker Fowler won round one. Walker Fowler, the seven-time champ, came out, and I don't know if Bryson Neal had issues. I do not have the lowdown for you. Um,
I will only say that I was told by a friend of mine who works for Yamaha to look out for Walker this year. Basically, kind of said that, you know, obviously you get a serious injury, you got to number one deal with the physical injury. Number two, you got to deal with the mental injury. If it's something that really sets back your career. And rumor had it going into round one that Walker was going to be a threat again and was looking really good for this year. So hopefully he's back at full physical and mental strength, and yeah, him and Bryson can get it on.
Yeah, those guys are going to duke it out. It's going to be an exciting year. And the 4x4 stuff, Cody Collier went out and made a statement winning in the 4x4 class. Um, I guess he put some time on him. I heard Brandon Frazier was ill. Brandon, get well so that you can come out in round two and defend yourself, defend your championship. That's awesome. Uh, also, Jessica went out and won. I don't know what happened to the rest of the class. Hannah was second, and Alex Thyman, I always mess up his name. Sorry, Alex. He is the returning champion. He won XC2. So those are the classes that we talk about. I'll be getting with Cody Collier here soon, and we'll be getting a race report up and really get into the skinny of what happened out on that race course. Everybody, we're going to catch you next week, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on YouTube. Remember our other shows. Don't forget ATV On Demand and Dirt Wheels. What do you say, Joe? Have a great weekend.
You too, brother. Good talking to you. Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys here next week. Thank you so much. Bye bye.